Hi, welcome to Culturally Determined on Blogging Heads TV. I'm your host, Aryeh Cohen-Wade, and my guest today is Alana Mae Johnson. Alana, could you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm a librarian in Los Angeles. I'm a Britney fan. That's about it. I'm here to talk about Britney today.
So thanks for coming on. So our topic today is going to be Britney Spears. And so there's this documentary that the New York Times produced with Hulu, or it airs on Hulu. I think you can also get it if you're a New York Times subscriber and are not a Hulu subscriber. It's called Framing Britney Spears. Is that the right title?
Yeah.
And so it was getting, some buzz online, and so I watched it and thought it was really interesting. And I reached out to you because I know that you are someone who's interested in Britney Spears and at least follows Britney Spears, and some of your posts over the past couple of years sort of like alerted me to what Britney was up to now, and because you will screen cap her Instagrams and stuff like that.
You didn't mention how we know each other.
Right, so we know each other through Twitter, and you're one of my favorite accounts on Twitter. Like I think you are sort of a master of the medium. And so if anyone wants to follow you with it, I think they should. What's your Twitter handle?
It's my full name, Alana Mae Johnson.
And we'll link to that below. Well, thank you for coming on. And usually we have I have on this podcast like writers or journalists or academics or something.
Yeah.
And you're closer to a normal person.
Random Twitter friend.
Yeah, but you are. I mean, well, you write on Twitter, and you're very good at Twitter, and you know a lot about Britney, or at least, as you said in the pre-show chat, you're not like an expert on all the details of her life, but you do follow her. And okay, so how let's just talk at the beginning about this documentary as just like a piece of reporting or something, or filmed entertainment or something. What did you think of it? Would you recommend it to people who are not super into Britney Spears?
It was good. It was a good introduction overview of the conservatorship, which is, I think that's the main thrust of the documentary. Is just bringing awareness to the fact that she's been under the conservatorship for 13 years and there's no end in sight at the moment. They're very hard to get out of. Yeah.
So the story is basically, a capsule, and it's pretty short actually. I feel like you could do like a 10-part miniseries on Britney Spears. And this is like 75 minutes.
Yeah, it's very short.
So it leaves a lot out.
Exactly. And to me, it was like media navel gazing, like, oh, look at what we did, look at the media, and it's like, that's fine. I could have done with like less of that and a little more straightforward of the current situation, but it makes sense for someone who's like you, who doesn't really follow Britney at all, but you learned something from it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, so the documentary, it follows her life as a child star, and she was on the Mickey Mouse Club, and sort of her ascent, and then becoming super famous and a global pop star icon, and then all the sort of crazy tabloid stuff that happened afterwards. And like I said, they leave a lot of stuff out. I mean, maybe for rights reasons, they don't have very much of her actual music, and they don't have just a lot of other like cultural things she did, like all the VMA performances, Kissing Madonna, the thing with the python, and just other like iconic moments that she was involved in. And so it's more, so they, like I said, you could really, there's enough material there for a lot more stuff. But
there's a ton. I mean, there's a lot of people in her life that it left out. Different managers that have kind of been screwing her over for years, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But yeah, overall, it's not bad. Everybody hates Justin Timberlake a little more now. That's good.
Right. So, I mean, one of the things that's interesting about it, and maybe you were saying it's sort of there's some sort of like media navel gazing and a lot of like mea culpa kind of stuff is like, they show stuff that happened, that was like aired on, TV, and questions she was asked in interviews and stuff.
Yeah.
And, these are from like 2003 or 2006 or something. And it's just really amazing that like this happened and no one objected, in a public way. I mean, this was like pre-social media, but basically everyone treats her publicly very, very poorly. And
yeah, it was very normal.
And that was basically accepted as fine. And so they show these clips of like, there's one with Matt Lauer interviewing her, and he's like wearing like no socks and like slip-on shoes, and like jeans is kind of a casual look for him. And of course, he later became disgraced.
I didn't notice that.
And yeah, I can't remember what he's asking her about, maybe her kids or something. But so she got very famous very quickly, and then became this object of like tabloid obsession, and then she kind of also became sort of a crazy like she was a central figure in like this crazy moral drama, morality play kind of thing that was going on in the late 90s and early 2000s. And there's this crazy part where they play a clip from like the first lady of the state of Maryland or something, saying if she could shoot one person, it would be Britney Spears. And
right,
like they're playing that clip to Britney in an interview, and Britney's just like, that's horrible. And it's just like, so there's all sorts of crazy stuff that is like, you just can't believe they got away with, or there was no pro Britney backlash, and it was just accepted as normal.
I mean, I feel like that style of interview in general used to be more popular than it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Like that really, let's try and make this person cry. But Britney definitely had it very bad in that department. Like interviewers were not nice to her at all. Like, and yeah, everybody asking her if she's a virgin, and like, it's just bizarre. I mean, I just can't imagine like being in my late teens or early 20s and still having to have this like feigned Disney-ish, like, oh, I'm a wholesome virgin, while you're also doing like Oops, I Did It Again, which is like hypersexual.
Right. And so part of her, the initial like image she projected was, Oops, I Did It Again. And so it was like sexy schoolgirl. So she was obviously, she or the people who, sort of like packaged her were playing with this, like, she looks like the all-American girl, but also, maybe she likes sex or something. And that like titillation was part of the initial appeal. But yeah, it's just like seemingly no one in the media was like treating her like a human being. And it's just, so there's this podcast that's called You're Wrong About that I've had one of the hosts, Sarah Marshall, has been on this program a couple times, but kind of the one of the main things the show does is it takes a news story from like the 70s, 80s, 90s, early aughts, and kind of debunks the cultural memory of what really happened. And a lot of the stories they focus on are sort of like young women who became some sort of totemic icon of something or other in the culture, and the way they, like, the media and the culture treated them horribly. And so like Monica Lewinsky, Tonya Harding, other people like this who, it was just like, I don't know, it just happened over and over again that this storyline played out where there'd be some woman who was just like, everyone thought she was great one moment, and then everyone turned on her and treated her like shit.
Yeah, I mean, I've listened to that podcast a bit. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like I was just thinking of the O.J. Simpson. They've done a million O.J. Simpson episodes. I don't know how many they've done. They just did another one, I think. But yeah, people like Paul Barbieri or whatever, like reevaluating how they were treated. That's what they're doing.
Right. So I think it's interesting that this is happening, and I sort of, this seems like the biggest like version, since this is the New York Times is doing it, the biggest version was like, oh, we're sort of like owning up to, or the people who like lead the culture are sort of owning up to how poorly they treated some individual person 20 or so years ago. And so you see all these interviews with her, and then another thing you see is the way the paparazzi treated her. And it's truly insane. Like,
it's so insane.
And so, yeah, so it's like, I don't know, like 25 or so like men with cameras with flash bulbs are like surrounding her whenever she's walking like from her car to some other place.
Go to Starbucks. She's just trying to get Starbucks.
Right. And so it's totally insane that that happened. It's crazy that there was like the financial incentive on the part of like tabloid or Us Weekly kind of magazines to do that. And then like when you see that happening over and over, you'd be like, oh, this would drive anyone to like
Oh, yeah.
something, like to act out in some way, or like to just, I mean, just having like lights flashed in your eyes over and over and over again would make you like angry or freaked out or confused or something.
Just like, the thought of fame alone, like I would have I mean, I've had total mental breakdowns just in my regular life. I can't imagine if I was famous. I mean, it would be like, I just can't imagine being under a microscope like that.
Yeah. So one of the things that that part made me, and so they interview some people. They interview at least one guy who was a paparazzi or paparazzo or whatever.
Oh yeah, that guy.
And he is not. I mean, maybe you expect him to be contrite or something, but he's not super contrite. And
I don't expect any paparazzi to ever be contrite.
Right. And so, but he's, I mean, so he was involved with one of the, like, you know, like the blow-ups that she, or supposed blow-ups that she had.
The umbrella. Well, yeah.
With the umbrella, right.
And so, it was his car.
Yeah, and so that was kind of like the last thing I sort of, like, remember hearing about Britney Spears for a long time was, like, the umbrella thing. And since I wasn't paying attention to pop music at that time, like, that, she sort of, like, receded in my memory after that, and then that was kind of the last thing we heard about. But okay, so, but before that, what's the order between the umbrella incident and then when she shaved her head?
She had shaved her head before the umbrella incident.
Okay, so both of those at the time were treated as like, you know, front page news, like literally, depending on the outlet, or like leading like the 8 o'clock hour on the Today Show or something. It's like, you know, Britney Spears breakdown. Like, here's the latest thing. And the way they're presented. Well, how did you think of the way that the documentary presented them?
Presented
the her shaving her head and the umbrella thing.
I thought they did a pretty good job showing what led up to that, and you know, they were respectful of her. They weren't like making fun of her during that, which is the go-to thing to do. Is like, you know, if Britney Spears can survive 2007, you can do anything, whatever, you know.
Right.
But, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think the head shaving thing, which I, you know, remember happening and was sort of like a big cultural moment, even though it was just like,
it was huge. Yeah, it was a big deal.
I mean, they basically,
that's why she's in a conservatorship.
Right. But the way they portray it is kind of like she, you know, saw that as like her way to like take control of her body, or sort of be like, I'm doing something that will indicate that like I'm done with this game where I'm like the, you know, sexy center of media attention. And so, and the way it was like, at least I took it at the time from just like late night jokes and stuff, it was like, oh, she's like gone insane and she's cuckoo, and, you know, she's just, you know, acting nonsensically. But they, you know, the way it's portrayed now, it's like, it makes sense. And I
mean, at the time, I thought it was kind of cool, like, you know, because like I said, like, I mean, I feel like I would totally snap if I was famous. I can't imagine being hounded by paparazzi like that. Like, how could anyone not totally lose their minds? Like, I mean, paparazzi are still terrible, but it's not like back then, like with Lindsay and Britney and Paris, like just the swarms that would follow them. It was just insane. I think Britney was the worst out of those people, but I mean, just can't do anything.
Right. So one of the things I was thinking about as I was watching this was kind of like Britney being the last, or at least one of the last, of sort of like the pre-internet era, like huge stars. And, you know, so like, I don't, you know, it seems like paparazzi, they still exist, but it's somewhat different now because everyone has a camera in their pocket all the time. And if you maybe see like, so there was this like thing over the past year about like Ben Affleck and his girlfriend, whose name was Ana de Armas or something like that, and he would be going to like pick up Dunkin' Donuts every day, and so there were paparazzi like or people or something stake out there, but you know the reason the paparazzi were hounding Britney is because they could sell the photo to Us Weekly for $100,000 or something, but now anyone can take a picture of any celebrity and then they just post it online and they don't get paid for it all. They just get like retweets or something. So it seems like but maybe you know more about this than me, is like that sort of culture still exist, or has the technology change made it so that no one would really care about this anymore?
I mean, there's still, I know you read the Daily Mail too. There's still plenty of like,
right.
I mean, I think there's just as much interest in celebrity, but yeah, the paparazzi have toned it down. But I mean, they're used really often, like they call the paparazzi, you know, they'll be like, follow me to this place, whatever.
Okay, right.
So, because they have something to promote or whatever, they want to get something else out of the news, or I think that's a lot more of it now. Or,
right.
I mean, maybe that's just as much back then, but I don't know.
Right. I mean, so yeah, I mean, there probably always was some sort of like behind the scenes agreement between the paparazzi people and the celebrities. Will be like, you know, we'll let you take these pictures and then you leave us alone. But it seemed like somehow that agreement broke down, where they were just, you know, like 30 people photographing her anytime she left her house or whatever. But then another thing that I thought about is like, she, you know, the reality TV era also started like very quickly after Britney became famous.
No, Britney had her. Oh yeah, well, it was, yeah.
Well, she had that show, which was
she had a show, Britney and Kevin, Chaotic.
Right.
Yeah.
But okay, so the Mickey Mouse Club was not reality, but like, you know, the people who became like huge stars, or at least this type of star who's on the cover of Us Weekly or something, they start being more like people who were the Bachelor, the Bachelorette, or something like that, or someone like Donald Trump, who was a reality TV star, and those people want like the attention, and so who is the most famous woman in the world today? Like maybe it's Kim Kardashian, and like her fame grew out of a reality TV show, and she wants seemingly most of the attention she gets is like carefully managed and so forth, and so if she's like, you know, doing. It seems like it's more like a straightforward transactional relationship between like her and the media versus Britney, as was more like sort of a, you know, innocent person or like a lamb who the wolves were attacking, or that's what it seems like today. Yeah.
I mean, I think Britney has kind of, I mean, she's talked about it a lot, but I think she really just kind of wants to be normal, like not have, like she went through so much. I think she just wants to, I mean, she has very limited custody of her children. There's a lot. I mean, she just can't have normal life now, which is what she wants. She could basically just, I mean, we're all stuck in our houses now, kind of, but she's like really stuck in her house.
Right. It certainly doesn't make fame look like something any normal person would want for them or their children, especially.
That's what, I never get it. It just sounds horrible to me.
Right. And so that's, I guess, sort of another aspect of it is, you know, that she was a child star and that her parents worked very hard for her to become a child star. And like her
mom did, yeah.
Yeah, so the mom moved when she was a teen, the mom moved with her to New York City to like take like dance and singing classes and stuff. And the father was sort of out of the picture. And then, and there was a line that something like a casting agent or something said that the father, his only interest was like, is she going to make me enough money to buy a boat? So he seems like, even, you know, back then, like a totally awful person. And then once she, you know, becomes super famous, it's, you know, they have this woman who's sort of the person who's like on screen the most, who's this woman who was sort of like her chaperone, like friend, companion type woman, like a woman who was maybe like, yeah, who was like 10 years older than her. And seemed like a genuine friend of hers. And then
she's great. Yeah.
But
she's She's very beloved in the Britney fan.
Okay. So I didn't know who this person was before. Yeah, and now she seems like she's sort of returned to normal life, but in her home she has like, the platinum records and stuff that Britney gave her.
So cute.
But yes, so it's sort of like, what were the parents thinking? Where were the parents? And then the dad eventually swoops back in to become the conservator, which is crazy. And then like, why was the mom not the conservator? Do you know anything about all that stuff?
I don't know in great detail, not enough to like sit and spout off about it exactly.
Well, that's never stopped anyone on this program before.
What?
That's never stopped anyone on this show before. But
God, well, it stops me. I'm not just going to go on about something I don't know about. Yeah, I don't know the exact details of how it started out, but yeah. I mean, there's been so many people involved in it over the years. Like I said, it's been 13 years. Like her, Jason, like, I don't know if that was the guy she dated before Sam, who she's with now. I can't remember exactly. But at one point, he was involved in the conservatorship. Like, he had control over the money. I mean, it's like just kind of passing through all these different people.
Okay. So one of the things that seemed, so the conservator thing is, it seems like it's usually for someone who is wealthy and elderly and maybe is like losing their faculties.
Yeah.
That's the way it's usually applied.
Yeah, that's when it's applied. It's like if someone is, too old and incapacitated, and I mean, it doesn't make any sense that she would be in such an extreme legal situation. Like, I mean, I could see if she, in 2008, obviously she was in a horrible place with her mental health, but I mean, who else has this happened to? Like, no one, and we've had plenty of celebrities like lose it in public and they just go on and go about their lives, but.
Right. And so, and then another thing that the show indicated was unusual was that there's like the financial conservatorship and then like the person conservatorship or something. And and traditionally that would be two different people. Like one person is assigned, like a lawyer or something is assigned to like take care of the person's interest as a person, and then someone else is taking care of the financial aspect. But then in this case, her father had both of those things.
Yeah, and did you see this week it came out that she only has like $60 million? That's her estimated net worth.
Yeah, so that seems
very low.
Seems strange. And where did the money go? Because she was doing this Las Vegas residency, which is like a way to print money if you're this type of celebrity. Yeah. So where's the money going? And yeah, so that seems super strange that this happened. And so sort of so framing Britney Spears, the framing device of the documentary is this Free Britney movement that started on social media and I guess had a groundswell over the past year. And so part of it was that like she had kind of like retreated from public life and was unclear, if she was okay or what was happening to her. But then she did have a social media, like she's on Instagram and posts to social media, and possibly is like, this gets into a little like QAnon territory. Like maybe she's
the secret messages that she's
putting encoded messages in her social media posts to her fans or something. But then people,
well, two women weren't the Britney's Graham hosts of the documentary? Yeah.
So tell more about that, because I never heard of that before.
I mean, I actually haven't listened to that podcast, I don't really believe that she's sending us hidden messages on her Instagram. I mean, it seems like she's posting them herself, which, I mean, that alone seems like a level of control that they wouldn't necessarily give up. Like, it surprises me that they let her do that, because everything, like, her diet is regulated, like, her allowance, like, she can't drive, like, she has rules and who she can spend time with. Yeah.
Right. So then these two women started a podcast, I guess, sort of as a joke, that'd be like each episode was analyzing a Britney Spears Instagram post because they are somewhat unusual, even if you're not thinking there's a secret code like embedded in it.
The wacko, she's great.
And so so that's how I, was sort of aware of her on Instagram, was seeing when you would repost her stuff. But then I guess this podcast like started to think, I guess they helped start the Free Britney movement of thinking like, oh, like they're like something more than just like a weird celebrity is, being weird is happening here. Like it seems like justice is being denied to this woman or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, if you're like looking for that, you can certainly find that, I think, in her Instagram, but I don't know. I don't really buy into that.
So do you think she is just posting in the way that a straightforward way that is still somewhat strange because she's a strange person?
I think so. I hope it's her. I hope she's approving it all. I mean, it seems like she's having an okay time these days. She dances every day. She posts videos of it, I don't know if you follow her on it. Do you follow her on Instagram?
I don't. Maybe I should.
You should?
Yeah, it's and so one of the things that I guess the documentary did highlight somewhat is like her incredible stage presence and like sort of ability, like dancing ability. I mean, I don't know how good of a singer she really is, but like she's certainly a very, very good performer. And
this is a really sad thing. She had a really serious knee injury in 2004. I think she injured it on stage once, and then she like seriously re-injured it on the set of a music video.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, like she's like never been the same at all. Like, I don't know. I have friends who've seen her in Vegas. I've actually never seen her perform live, and who knows?
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was planning on going to one of the Vegas residencies that she ended up canceling. I was like, this is when I'm gonna go. I'm finally gonna make a trip to Vegas and go see Britney. And then I was like, oh, she's been in a mental hospital for a few months, and like she's not doing the residency anymore, and oh, her dad's sick or whatever. But yeah.
Right. Okay. So the documentary did not note that thing that she had this severe injury that limited her ability to perform. And there's a Slate Culture Gabfest episode where they talked about this, and Julia Turner on that show noted that. And then there's this key moment in the documentary where she's supposed to like announce a new thing in Las Vegas, and then there's this huge like build up, and it's like being streamed on TMZ or something, and then she like just walks past it instead of.
It's wild, yeah. I kind of love it. She's just like over it. Yeah, there's like they did a whole like half an hour special for, I don't know where they were streaming it, but it was to announce her new residency. And yeah, she just went up to the stage, walked right off, and walked right out to her car. And she was supposed to do a performance and everything. There are all these people like rah, rah, waiting, cheering.
Yeah, there's like a crowd of thousands or something like on a street in Las Vegas with like a huge stage set up. So obviously this was her, well, maybe not obviously, who knows exactly what she was thinking. It seemed to be that this was like her sort of like one of the few chances where she had some agency, and she was like, I'm not going to play your game or like literally like dance to your tune. So that is interesting. And then, they claimed it was that her father was sick, and that's why they canceled the thing. But yeah, I mean, so, okay, it's very strange. Okay, how would you, like, so you mentioned earlier that you're roughly the same age as Britney and liked her as...
Yeah, I'm like a year younger than Britney.
As a teen. Like, how do you remember her from that era, and how, like, what do you think she... I don't know, like, she symbolizes different things based on the different era of her, but, like, what was the attraction in the 90s when you were about her age?
In the 90s, I mean, the songs were just really good. I mean, they're very good pop songs. That album was great. And I mean, she became huge for a reason. I mean, it was just like very universally, I don't know, everybody just kind of like Britney. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what specifically. I guess I liked her because she I guess I always liked her because she's seemed kind of like wild and bad a little bit, but you know, but she seems like a very nice person and very like, you know, very polite. And I've never heard like any stories about her like being super mean to anyone. It's like she's like it's the opposite.
Yeah, and when we watch the old clips, especially one particularly bizarre one that's like a French interviewer who is like, it's crazy. He's like says something like, I need to ask you about the thing that we are all thinking about. And it's like dramatic pause, your breasts. And then she just kind of like is like, haha. But like it's just crazy, like her sort of you know, that she doesn't like storm off or that she never sort of breaks the facade or I don't know. Like basically she was like before the like head shaving and umbrella thing, like abuse is like
very professional.
Yeah, abuse was like heaped upon her, and all sorts of people, usually like older men, were treating her like shit, and she never like lashed out or walked off the stage or something. And that in sort of that early period, so that is pretty remarkable. And I don't know. I mean, it's I think it's yeah, I think it's just sort of like it's interesting today is just like a transitional period in sort of like celebrity, you know, like how do we relate to celebrities and stuff, and how her like presentation initially was sort of like girl next door, but also sexy, but also like, you know, great dancer and performer and everything, but also like all American girl kind of thing, and it was so and like Mickey Mouse, and it was so like intensely packaged from the beginning, and then like that broke down. Whereas I don't know, like today, it's like Kim Kardashian is tweeting out like everything that's happening in her life, or maybe not Kim Kardashian because she's so high up, but I don't know. I feel like an equivalent sort of person just has a very different like relationship to the public today.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's inevitable because of social media, I guess. First, what's going to change, but yeah.
So one other thing I did want to talk just a little more about the dad, who's sort of portrayed as the villain.
Jamie, yeah.
Yes, and so I was confused initially because her sister is named Jamie Lynn, but her parents are named Jamie, and her father's Jamie, and her mother is Lynn. And then when I saw people online saying like, fuck Jamie Spears, I was like, I thought that was a sister. But yeah, so that's somewhat unusual. But
well, did you see her tweet recently about the Teslas?
No.
Her Tesla. She tweeted it. I think she might have been tweeting at Elon Musk. I don't know, but apparently she's killed 3 cats.
Oh yes. This is the sister Jamie Lynn who had a sort of minor pop career based off the celebrity of Britney, and
yeah, but she's pretty much. She's aligned with the dad, I think, as far as like Free Britney goes or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like the mom is on Britney's side, but Jamie Lynn is on the dad's side. That's how it seems, anyway.
Right. So part of that reminded me of the documentary that's about. Her name is just popped out of my head. The British singer who OD'd. And had that one really successful album that was.
Oh, Amy Winehouse?
Yes, Amy Winehouse. Have you seen that documentary about her?
I haven't.
It's very good, and it's sad, and even sadder than the Britney one because she died. But part of it is that like there's also an estranged father who comes back into the picture. You know, after her initial success, and then he kind of takes over, and he indulges her, you know, bad habits and like turns a blind eye to her drug use and stuff. And it's just like. Yeah, there's something about, and I think there's some other narrative at some point I heard of this like when the estranged dad comes back to the picture, like that's bad news, and yeah, and so none of the parents and Britney herself and the sister are not, you know, declined to be interviewed or something, so they don't get to say their side of the story, but he really.
Well, Felicia's kind of a proxy for Lynn, I would say.
Okay.
They're still close. I mean, and just the fact that she appeared in the documentary, I think was like it was kind of That was a positive sign, I think.
Okay, that's interesting. And was there a brother? There's some other relative who is.
Yes, there's like an older. I don't know if he's a half brother. I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know.
there's a guy who's who's another relative who is.
Yeah, who just seems like a dick. I don't really know.
Right, and so you get this. I mean, in some way, it's sort of like, especially the thing with where the dad all he wanted to do was buy a boat. It's sort of like, I don't know. They are presented as sort of like these like trashy people, and that was in some way the Britney narrative originally is like, oh, she's just, it's not like Paris Hilton or something who was like refined
like
from
Louisiana, like
right. Yeah, she's from this small town, and then like everyone, all the hangers-on, sort of like took advantage of her, including like various manager type people who did not act in her best interests. And it's actually one of the it's kind of weird, but one of the only people who comes out looking good in the documentary is Michael Moore. Do you remember that part?
I don't remember that part.
Well, it's like there's like I think it's Larry King. He's on Larry King, rest in peace, Larry King, and for some reason he's there commenting on Britney Spears, and this would have been maybe around the time Fahrenheit 9/11 came out or something, and he like says like, "Can we just leave this woman alone?"
Yeah.
Whereas everyone else in the media was just like saw her as an opportunity to get ratings or advance themselves or.
Well, yeah, and remember Chris Crocker and 2011, I think. Leave Britney Alone.
The Leave Britney Alone, which was that too? I feel like that was earlier. I feel like that was one of the first sort of things that went viral on YouTube, but maybe
it was early. I mean, that's like 10 years ago already. I don't know.
Right.
2011. But it might have been earlier than that.
Yeah, and that was also okay. So Chris Crocker turns out to be right that we never should have left Britney alone.
We should have listened to Chris Crocker. Everybody was so mean to him.
Yeah, and he ended up becoming a porn star or something.
Yeah, I looked at his Twitter the other day. I think he has an OnlyFans, and he's like also, I don't know, does porn, but
yeah, I guess that makes sense. But yeah, so almost every adult who is portrayed, on camera from the late 90s to like 2010 or so, talking about Britney Spears, almost every single one of them, comes off looking very bad, including Justin Timberlake. Do you want to talk about
Diane Sawyer?
Diane Sawyer, very bad. Matt Lauer, these weird foreign press people. But do you want to talk about the Justin Timberlake angle to this?
I mean, he's just such a jerk. I don't know. I mean, I never liked Justin Timberlake, even when they were together and supposedly happy or whatever. He just always seemed like a total jerk to me. He's good in Southland Tales, I'll say that. That's all I'll say for Justin.
I mean, I didn't see that. That's a crazy movie, right? That's like a bonkers movie.
You should watch it. It's really
I shouldn't see that one. I mean, he's good in Social Network, where he plays the guy who invented Napster.
Oh, that's
right?
true. He's good in Social Network too. So there's 2 movies he's good in.
But yeah, he definitely comes off poorly, like almost everyone else, except.
Well, then he did his Notes apology app to Britney and Janet at the same time.
Right, and it is the fact that he was involved in 2 of these sort of incidents or storylines of the you were wrong about sort of thing, where the woman was blamed when the vast majority of the blame should have gone to the men, is strange. And but none of the I mean, it's like none of the people, well, I mean, Matt Lauer maybe aside, who was, allegedly a rapist and a sexual harasser, none of the people who like did her bad or whatever suffered the consequences. Like she suffered the everything. So I mean, the stupid question would be like, what's next for Britney Spears? But you think she just wants to be a normal person and be a mother and not be in the public eye?
I think
basically?
so. I mean, I mean, in 2008, they got her in the conservatorship and they just like shipped her off to work. They put her on tour, released an album, and then she worked really steadily up until, you know, very recently with the end of the Vegas residency.
Mm-hmm.
So that's decades of like nonstop, pretty intense work. So, and yeah, I mean, the last I read about it, the custody situation was that K-Fed has 70% custody and she has 30% custody, but I'm not totally sure about how that works, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Because you used to see her kids on social media and you don't see them anymore. She doesn't post them, so I don't know if she is seeing them or what. But I know that the K-Fed, I shouldn't say.
So we haven't even mentioned him. So Kevin Federline, the father of her children, were they married?
No. Oh yes, duh. Yeah, of course they were married.
Right.
Yeah.
And then did she have like a 36-hour marriage? That was like another tabloid.
Yeah, well,
sort of
that was Jason Alexander. That was her first one. They got married in Vegas when she was trashed. And he was one of the guys who just stormed the Capitol.
Really?
Yes, he's one of those guys.
That's amazing. Wow, what a journey. Okay, this is not Jason Alexander from Seinfeld. It was like a childhood friend or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, wow, that's maybe the next documentary should be on him and his journey through the past 20 years. But okay, so then Kevin Federline, they have 2 kids, and then he had total custody at one point after her breakdown, and he is not interviewed or really mentioned all that much. But I thought
that was strange that he's left out of it so much. I mean,
well, did you recently rewatch the Chaotic Britney Kevin Chaotic?
Yeah, I watched it a couple months ago, actually.
How does that in 2021? How does that come off?
I mean, all this stuff. I mean, like what we've been talking about, like the revisionism of like you're wrong about stuff. Like it's all stuff that I felt like I saw at the time, and I saw that it was wrong the way she was being treated and everything. And I could see like marrying K-Fed was not going to be a good idea at the time, But yeah, I mean, he does not come off well at all, and she just seems kind of like desperate and super lonely, and just like found this guy who she thought was hot and brought him along on like this world tour. From what I remember, whirlwind romance. I think they were dated for like 3 months or something before they got married.
Mm-hmm.
But,
does he have any public profile these days?
I don't know. I think he was trying to have a music career at one point, but that didn't pan out. So I don't know what his deal is.
Do you think he gets like alimony or something from?
I was just thinking about that. He must. I mean,
especially if he was taking care of the kids,
Yeah, I'm sure he does.
Right. So part of another just totally bizarre detail that I think there's this guy is a lawyer and maybe briefly represented her, but then the court didn't give her the power to pick her own representation or something. Do I have that right? Something along those lines?
Mm-hmm.
So he's one of the talking heads, and he notes that like both sides in this continuing legal battle over the conservatorship are being paid by the money that Britney Spears generates from her celebrity and talents. So it's like sort of the in their interests in a cynical way to keep this whole thing going and remind me of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's just fucked up that one both sides being paid by the same source, and remind me of the court case in Bleak House, Jarndyce versus Jarndyce, where they this court case goes on so long that no one even remembers what it was originally about, and then like in the end, like all the money from the estate is used up, and so everyone like celebrates and they all go home. It just kind of seemed like that everyone was sucking off of the money, and so they all had an interest in keep it going.
Gotta get their votes.
What do people speculate on what the judge, like why the judge continues to more or less side with the father?
Well, I mean, I think it's just the simple fact of the conservatorship. And I mean, we don't know exactly what it is. We know a little bit about it, but yeah. I mean, I assume the judge is just, going along with what they're supposed to be doing under the terms of the conservancy,
Mm-hmm. But this is
it's not like the judge is going to be like, oh, you don't have to do this anymore, Britney,
Right. Well, it would seem unclear how she could ever exit this, because usually it's for an elderly person who will eventually die, and then it just becomes a regular estate.
Yeah.
That people fight over, like, that way, and not like an ongoing, like, money is continuing to be made by a person continuing to, like, produce work. So yeah, it's super strange. Does she? When's the last? So has she only done one album since the conservatorship started, or has she continued doing this stuff?
No. She's done a bunch.
Oh, okay.
From 13 years, she's had a bunch of albums.
How do they compare to the early stuff?
I mean, it's still good. It's all, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know. I don't listen to pop music generally, but her as, like, I haven't,
well, she's just interesting as an American figure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But, like, nothing. Has she had, like, a big hit during that time?
Yeah, she's had hits since then.
Okay.
I mean, my brain is mush right now, but I know.
Okay, so she keeps on doing original work. I mean, that's interesting, and maybe I'll have to check it out. I mean, the early stuff. It's like the opening chords of "Hit Me Baby One More Time," or is it just called "Baby One More Time," or, like, parentheses?
Oops, I did it again.
Oops, I did it again. Like, the opening chords of that are, like, so iconic if you grew up in the 90s. And yeah, and it's, I don't know. It's a very strange story. Okay, so if people somehow have listened to all this without having actually watched the documentary, I recommend you watch the documentary. Even if you don't consider yourself someone who, I don't know, it's sort of like, there's a sort of a snobby, like, oh, Britney Spears, that was just garbage trash to begin with, but like, it's a super interesting story, and she was such an iconic figure for a number of years, that is, I think it's definitely worth checking out, even if you were not, watching TRL in 1997.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be interesting if it was just like any famous person who had gone through that,
Yeah. But were there any major things that we mentioned some of the stuff, like they didn't mention her injury, or some of the iconic moments, like, but the Python, was there anything else you thought the documentary should have covered that it didn't?
I mean, I understand, like, I think it was already a bit longer than most New York Times documentary things in that series are.
Right.
So I understand they could only fit so much in. I think they did a good job giving the basic overview. Like I said, like, there's different people, like, in and out of her life who've been shady in different ways who they didn't necessarily address. Like, Lou Taylor was this woman who's, like, involved with her finances for years, who was involved in the conservatorship up until, like, last year, I think. So, I mean, they could have gotten into more, like, a little more detail about the conservatorship, I guess, but I think they did a good job of, like, just the overall arc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I said, this could be like a 6 or 8 or 10 part, like, Ken Burns kind of documentary, like, going much more into all the different work that she did and the various weird things that happened to her and that she did. I think that's all I want to talk about with Britney. Do you have anything else? Do you have any final closing thoughts about Britney?
No, my light got really bad in here because it got dark outside. So I'm sure that's been just lovely to watch.
It looks fine from this end. I mean, it's night here on the East Coast. You're on the West Coast, so
it's gotten a lot darker since we started talking.
Right. Well, maybe that's a sign as the sun sets that.
I know. Oh God. Yeah, I don't know if I have any final thoughts.
Okay, so
Free Britney.
Yeah, #FreeBritney.
Mm-hmm.
And follow her on Instagram. You recommend?
Definitely follow her on Instagram. She's great. I mean, she's just charming. I mean, she's great.
Yeah, there's something about it's weird because it's like a genuine person and then this constructed media image, and then she's like seemingly all alone, you know, in a mansion. Like it's so strange, and she's such a like.
Well, she has a good boyfriend now. Like she said, historically, like we've talked about, really, really bad taste in men. But the guy that she's been with now, I think it's been a few years, which is. It might be her longest relationship, actually, Sam. But he's very attractive. She gets to hang out with him all the time.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, and you have to, like, at the end of watching this, you just kind of, like, want to, or at least I did, want to, like, apologize to Britney for everything she's gone through and, like, wish her well in the future that she just has, like, a happy life after going through all this madness.
Like, as someone who likes her music, it would be great to have more music or whatever, but I just want her to have the life that she wants, you know?
Right.
Not all the restrictions.
Yeah. And yeah, it seems like it should. So, the case the documentary makes is that, you know, she should have the conservatorship either should be totally gone or like very different so that she can more or less live as a free person.
Yeah.
So I'll join the hashtag Free Britney movement as well. Okay, so Alana, thanks for coming on. And anything you want to plug before we wrap?
No, you can just follow me on Twitter. You can join my book subscription.
Oh yeah, talk about that because that's very interesting.
So I guess this is month 4 we're in right now with my book subscription. I don't know. It just occurred to me, and I was like, oh, maybe I could just send out a book a month to some friends and see who wants to sign up. And so I just started my little subscription service. So I pick out 6 months worth of books at a time, and there's my first choice, and then there's 1 or 2 alternates each month if you've read the first choice or you just don't want that. And yeah, I have I don't know, I've got a nice little group of 35 people that are all from Twitter. And we've got a group chat, and yeah, it's just a nice little fun thing. But yeah, I'm doing signups for the next 6 months, next month. So
cool. And you got written ups somewhere like recently that, or who, or someone endorsed you. What was it that happened recently?
New York Review of Books retweeted it, and
right.
Lauren
Euler, previous guest on the show.
Normally I delete all my tweets after a week, but with that, that one tweet where I announced the next subscription, it got all this. I'm like, oh shit! Now I can't delete stuff. I want to leave this up for a while.
Well, no, it's cool. I congratulate you on it. It's an idea that I'd never even heard of before. And if my brain hadn't been broken in various ways and I could continue to read new books, and didn't have all these books that I bought over the years that I haven't read yet, I would probably join as well. Yeah, so it's a cool project. And okay, so you're on Twitter. The link will be on the blogging site to your Twitter. And
I'm better on Twitter than I am in this video.
I'll agree with that because, like I said, you're one of my favorite people on Twitter, and
you're I'll agree with that. You're awful.
You're not awful, by a long shot. But I appreciate you coming on and as a representing the Britney fandom. So thanks for coming on, Alana, and
you're welcome.
And thanks to all of our viewers and listeners. And we'll see you again next time.